Blog Talk Radio.
Good Saturday morning, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural Saturday episode of the Red Light Rant, sponsored by the Red Light Sports Ramble. This was Evan's idea. So today, Evan is running red lights and Troy is burning rubber at the red light. In these Saturday episodes, this is where Evan and I talk about the week in sports and those things that happened this week that irks us, that lights fires under our fuses, and as Evan always says, grinds his gears. And so, Evan, this was your idea for us to expand our programming to Saturday and just kind of have a rant about things that you and I get real worked up about. So I'm going to let you preface the listeners to the Saturday show as to what our expectations of the show are.
Well, the Monday through Friday show, we're pretty structured on what we talk about. It's, planned out. This is what we're going to discuss. This is, questions we're going to ask if we happen to have hosts. And, Black, when you had first started it, this is kind of what, Red Light Sports Ramble was, is more or less you kind of ranting about, different topics in sports. And I was just thinking, we can take one day a week to, look back, look at, major things that happened in sports this past week and, just kind of rant on things that kind of rubbed us the wrong way or, grinded our gears or lit our fuse a little bit. So that's what this show is it's going to be less structured and, we're still going to use some facts backing up our opinion, but this is more or less the idiot with the opinion show. So we're both just going to be idiots with opinions today.
Yeah, I like how you preface that we're going to go back to kind of the roots of the Red Light Sports Ramble. And if people go to the YouTube page, and I'll tell you what, Evan, we're up to 128 episodes. But if they go way back and they listen to those first small Red Light Sports Rambles that were only 5 minutes on my way home from work, I had some pretty good rants where I got pretty worked up, especially on the Braun suspension, paying college athletes. There's a couple of topics I really got worked up on. So I'm excited that we're going to do this show on Saturday. The idea when you brought it up, I was like, yeah, that's perfect, bud. That is perfect. Time for us just to let it out. So I'm going to let you take it away. Let the listeners know how we're starting today's rant.
Well, today, as we all know, on Monday is this past Monday, the Monday after the regular season ends, is the famous holiday known as Black Monday, where NFL teams decide to either fire their head coach, fire their general manager, or both. And this past Black Monday, and I'm going to count Sunday in it as well, we had seen 5 head coaches lose their jobs, 1 general manager, and we also saw a coach earlier this year lose his job in Gary Kubiak. Now, what really irritated me about this past Black Monday is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns decided less than a year after hiring Coach Chud, less than a year after hiring him, they decide that they had enough of him and they were going to fire him. And this is after, he went 4-12, and this is after he finally found a quarterback, and then the quarterback gets hurt. So now he has to go back to Jason Campbell or Brandon Weeden because the quarterback that he found to run his offense, to run it well, got hurt. And the thing that just really irritates me about it is if you look at the Browns' history, they have a history of doing this. They came back, and this is since they came back into the NFL. They came back in the NFL in 1999 after they moved to Baltimore, and they've had 7 head coaches in that time. The longest coach during that time was Romeo Crennel, who lasted from 2005 to 2008, coached 64 games. Their inaugural coach, Chris Palmer, lasted 32 games, got fired. Butch Davis lasted 58 games, got fired. Interim coach Terry Robowski lasted 6 games. Then they hired Romeo Crennel, who lasted 64 games. Eric Mangini lasted all of 32 games. Pat Shermer lasted all of 32 games. And Rob Chudzinski lasted all but 16. So their last three coaches have only lasted 2 seasons at the most. That's 2 seasons. And they've only been to one playoff. They've only been to the playoffs once since they got put back in the NFL. And I was, looking around online today, looking for some information regarding it. And the NewYorker.com has an article up today, or it was up from January 2nd, talking about Black Monday. And they have a list of all 32 NFL teams and the total head coaches they've had since the year 2000. You have the New England Patriots leading the list since 2000. They've had one coach since 2000. And Troy, what has the Patriots done since the year 2000?
They've made the playoffs.
How many Super Bowls have they won?
They've won 3 Super Bowls, correct? Lost 2. Went to 5, right?
Yep, they've been to 5. Yeah.
And the other thing is they've made the playoffs and won the division title. So
they've only missed the playoffs once, I believe. No, I think they missed the playoffs twice during Bill Belichick's reign in New England, the 14-year reign. That was once his very first season there. I believe he only won 5 or 6 games, and then the year that Tom Brady got hurt in Week 1, and they won 11-5 and still missed the playoffs. So I think he's only had one losing season his entire tenure in New England.
Yes, very.
Then you have the Eagles, the Giants. Go ahead.
I was going to say very stable in New England, and it's the Rant show. I'm not a New England Patriot fan. I'm not cheering for the New England Patriots, but I got to give them respect. They have a lot of stability even in the front office, down to the coaching. I mean, he's the guy, and this is how I look at the success, is that Belichick is the stable piece, but how many assistant coaches and coordinators have moved on to become head coaches? There's a lot of stability there.
And failed at it.
And it's just, you look at that, and that's the key to success. You've got to let your coaches have time.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna continue, but man, 2 years. I mean, really, I get it. What irks me, Evan, is you hire this coach and you say, yeah, we got to rebuild the team, but I know the fans want a winner and we want to win right away. But you know what? Sometimes you have to build and you have to give some time to turn things around. And especially in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Especially in Cleveland. There's some pieces there, but he's got to get his system in and you got to implant the right pieces. But I'm going to let you continue before I ramble on more about that one.
Yeah. You just, like you said, you have to give them time, and it didn't help that they trade their starting running back. I think a handful of games into the season for a draft pick, and then he didn't see enough. The owner didn't see enough improvement during the course of the year, especially towards the end. Well, the second you have the next up after the Patriots, you have the Eagles, the Giants, the Packers, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Titans since 2000 have had 2 head coaches. And the Eagles have been to the NFC Championship game multiple times. They've gone to and lost a Super Bowl. The Giants have 2 Super Bowl wins in that time. The Packers have a Super Bowl win. The Ravens have a Super Bowl win. The Steelers have a Super Bowl win. 2 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowl wins.
And one appearance, 1 loss. And the Titans have a Super Bowl appearance during that time. And they've only had 2 head coaches since 2000. Again, as you said, you're going back to stability. Now I'm going to jump to the bottom of the list. You got the Oakland Raiders, who have had 8 head coaches since 2000. The Redskins, the Lions, the Dolphins, the Browns, the Bills, 7 head coaches in 14 years. Raiders, 8 head coaches in 14 years. The Rams, the Falcons, the Chiefs, the 49ers, 6 head coaches in 14 years. And if you look at that list, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Falcons, and the Lions and the Redskins are really the only teams that have been successful in the last little bit when they've actually, the Redskins just fired their coach, so did the Lions, but they had actually given their coach a little bit of an opportunity, and the Chiefs hired Andy Reid, who, he had been the head coach in Philadelphia for quite a while until recently. So as you said, you have to give these coaches a chance to be successful. You know, Pete Carroll, who has his team in prime position to win the Super Bowl this year, he was fired after one season in New York. He coached the Jets in 1994, won 6-10, got fired. Then they hired this guy by the name of Rick Kotite, who went 4-28 in 32 games, including, I believe, one in 15 season. And I think Pete Carroll could have done better than that. I think he could have done better than 4-28 over another 2 seasons. And then they hired Bill Parcells, and he had success there, got them to the playoffs. And then they fired Al Gore after 1 year. He went 9-7 in 1 year, then they get rid of him. So now the Jets, thankfully, are having stability, giving Rex Ryan another year to implement his new quarterback and his defense. But a couple other stats that I've seen, and you being a Pittsburgh guy, probably a lot of Pittsburgh guy, but living out in Pittsburgh, you've heard a lot about Mike Tomlin lately. But the Steelers since 1969 have had 3 head coaches. And how many Super Bowls have they won since 1969?
They got 6. They lead the NFL in the Super Bowl era. And you're absolutely right. That's going to be the end of my rant about something that irked me throughout the season. I want to stay on the Black Monday with the coaches, but I'm gonna turn it over to something that really, in your words, grinded my gears early in the season when they were 0-4. And I'll get into that later, but we'll stick on the head coaches with the time investment. I believe that, us as fans sometimes put that pressure on the front office because we want to win. We want to win. And so the administration, the general manager, the owner, like, why are we not winning? Why are we not winning? Well, you got to get the key players in place. And I'm going to go back to Chud. I mean, that's really why we started this rant on Saturday. Brown's giving him 1 year. And like you said, Hoyer did an excellent job and had them tied for first place early in the season. And he got hurt. Then they went to Whedon. Then they went back to Campbell. If you remember when we did our first ever episode together, we were talking about Brandon Whedon. And we were talking about, was he the guy for this system? And we didn't know. I'd actually even said Jason Campbell would, if you want to win now, would be the right choice. Well, that didn't pan out at the end of the year. But Chud did not have any quarterback stability this year. And when he did have stable quarterback play, he was winning. So if you want to tell me that you didn't see the progress, get yourself a damn quarterback. Because that is a key piece to winning in the NFL, Evan. You and I both know that. You got to find a quarterback.
Or allow your head coach a chance to develop a quarterback, because look what he did with Cam Newton out in Carolina. Cam Newton, he developed Cam Newton. Get him a quarterback that he can develop, not a 29-year-old second-year pro.
Well, and I thought they did that, and I'm going to go back to this, Evan. Cass on the website we contribute to, Daily Cowboys Football Fix. Alex Tanney was signed by the Browns. She is in love with this quarterback. She thinks he has all the potential to be a good one, and so they brought him on board. That could have been the quarterback to develop. And give Chud the opportunity to do that. You're not able to see what's going to go on with the guy, and you get rid of him. Now these players got to get adjusted to a new coaching staff, and they're hiring coordinators before they have a head coach. What is up with that? Like, how can you hire
That's just ridiculous. They just hired Jim Schwartz to be their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, good luck with that. Let Schwartz go there. Actually, I'm kind of disappointed. I wish Schwartz...
Did you hear who they... Did you hear who they're going to be interviewing for the head coaching job, though?
Tressel, right?
Yep, former Ohio State head coach Jim Tressel is going to be interviewing for the head coaching job in Cleveland coming up.
Yeah, that's good luck to Cleveland. Good luck to him because...
Yeah, and
go ahead.
This owner that they have, he came from Pittsburgh. He was a minority owner in Pittsburgh for many, many, many years, working with the Rooney family. You think working so closely with the Rooney family for many, many years, he would learn some football sense, because I have a lot of respect for the Steeler organization, and a lot of that is how they treat their people. Now, the free agents that leave Pittsburgh, when the Steelers let them leave, I've never heard any of them just outright bash Pittsburgh and the ownership and the management. When their coaches have left, I've never heard them bash Pittsburgh, bash the ownership. But you've heard from other teams when these coaches or players have moved on, like Greg Jennings, for example, and I think he's just doing it for the attention. They go out and they start bashing the organization. You never hear that with Pittsburgh. You think the owner of the Browns would have learned during his time in Pittsburgh how to run an organization successfully. But I guess he was too busy being investigated by the federal government for his truck stops that he owned, for screwing customers out there.
Yeah, well, he reminds, and I'll throw this out there. This is our rant. He reminds me of a weasel that's just looking for the dollar. He's sniffing the dollar. He wants to win. He's sniffing a dollar. I never see Cleveland winning, Evan, because if you're hiring coordinators before you hire a coach, who's in control there? It's going to go back down, and I know since we've contributed to the Cowboys site, I've read a lot of the opinions on Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones running that team and being the GM, making stupid decisions. There's another guy that I think sniffs the dollar. And if you're going to sniff the dollar, you might as well just, fancy up your stadium, do all this stuff, make it a fan experience. But I'll tell you what, the bottom line is, Evan, people want to see winners. And yeah, can you put all the blame on the coach? My answer to that is no, you can't. Because look what's happening in Cleveland with the owner interviewing coordinators, bringing coordinators on the staff before a head coach. That's ridiculous. I was a head coach in college, Evan, and if I went in, like when I went to Bacone College, when I left Upper Iowa, I had an assistant coach that was there, that was under contract, and he had 4 months left on his contract. I had time to evaluate whether or not he was the guy that I wanted to be on my staff. It turned out he was. He was a good fit for the school and what I wanted to do. But if I had went there and he wasn't on the same philosophy page as me, what kind of working relationship would that be? So when I heard that, I'm like, what, are you just nuts? You're going to bring a coach in, what if the philosophies don't match? So it's telling me that the decisions and the directives are coming down from the GM and the owner as to how they want the team coached. That's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah, you know who the general manager of the Cleveland Browns is Michael Lombardi. And his tenure, he was last general manager of the Oakland Raiders before where he's at now. Looking over his background, he helped run the drafts in Oakland, and we all know what kind of mess is in Oakland, which I think he got a free pass in Oakland due to having to work with the senile old man, is that what I'll call him, Al Davis, and working with the Davis family. But he, in 98 to 2007, he worked with the Oakland Raiders. He was senior personnel executive, working closely with the owner on all football matters. In 1998, he was at Philadelphia Eagles, and he was the director of pro personnel. 96, he was with the St. Louis Rams, and 87 to 96, he was with the Cleveland Browns. 84 to 87, he was with the 49ers as a scout. But, he was director of pro personnel in 1998 in Philadelphia. He was the chief financial. He managed the professional personnel department, advised owner and chief financial officer on all player contracts and salary cap issues. In 98 to 2007, like I said, he was a senior executive with the Raiders, and we all know what the Raiders did in 98 to 2007. I think they went to the Super Bowl once, and that was after John Gruden left due to issues with the management with the Raiders. And they went to the Super Bowl with Gruden's guys, and they went to the playoffs multiple times as well. But just look at his track record, and now he's the GM and advising the owner, and he's got a poor track record himself.
Exactly. It's just crazy. You know, and it's going to go back to, we said a number of times, you got to give these guys chances. You know, I know that, you know, when you go back and look at it, we want to win. I understand that. But you've got to have stability in your coaching staff. The stability in a coaching staff really allows the system to get put in place. And, you know, if the players aren't developing, it's going to go back to what I said before about the philosophy. You know, and being a former head coach, Evan, it's all about, and I think I'd mentioned this on a ramble, as a head coach, you're in charge of each of these different parts of the team, and you plan with your coaches. And if your coaches are not developing the players, then you've really got to look at, what do I need to do? Do I need to coach this guy up, or does he just not believe in what I'm doing? And if he doesn't believe, then I need to get rid of him and bring in somebody that's on the same page as me. And, you know, we talk about it, Belichick and his assistants going off to coach. It's because they fit what he wants done, and they go out and coach the guys up in the system. I mean, as much as, you know, and I guess I use the word dislike the Patriots, I give them respect. Look at this year. No all-pro wide receivers. They lost Gronk, and they're still the number 2 seed, and they got a first-round bye. And that team was depleted with injuries. It's the stability in the system that allows them to put people into these places. But part of that, too, Evan, is what I'm going to say. I said it before. That the GM has to put the pieces in place and let the coaches coach.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you're just going to fire the coach because we saw no improvement, well, look down the roster. Are you giving the coach the ample opportunity to build a team? Am I answering Cleveland? No, you're not. You traded away Richardson.
Yeah, unfortunately, Go ahead.
I was going to say, you trade away Richardson for a draft pick. I mean, granted, he's not doing much in Indianapolis. We talked about that yesterday. But you do that, so my thought is, okay, you're looking to stock up through the draft next year. Good for you. Well, keep your system in place. But, you know, we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, well, I guess with Jim Schwartz, I just saw an article now, and I thought I'd seen that he had been named, but he could be named defensive coordinator with the Browns. And I just, you know, going back to, you know, like the personnel around, you know, the offensive side, you know, the coaching staff of the Browns was quite good. You have Chud, who's an offensive mind. You had Norv Turner running the offense. Their defensive coordinator, his name escapes me at the moment, was quite good, and he had the defense playing quite well. And now by hiring Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator, if they have, or if they, in fact, they do, you're now going to be getting rid of a very good coordinator that you already had on defense. And it's just ridiculous. And one last stat I want to throw out there, because we're approaching about 6 minutes to go, is the Cincinnati Bengals, who have been an organization that used to change coaches probably as fast as we change our underwear. Marvin Lewis is still coaching in Cincinnati, and he had a very bad 2007-2008 stretch while in Cincinnati. The owner stuck by him, and since 2009, they won 44 games, and it made the playoffs 3 straight seasons. So that right there shows you, if you have patience with your coach, that you know you can be successful. And yeah, I understand that the Packers fired Ray Rhodes after 1 year, after an 8-8 season, but he was the wrong hire to begin with, and that was Ron Wolf correcting a wrong. So yeah, that's all I got to say regarding the coaching rant.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we look at it, and the one thing that I want to go to, and it kind of ties into this, and this was where the one thing that grinded my gears this week is, if you remember, the Steelers started 0-4, and I believe, I don't think I had said it in a ramble. I may have. I'd have to go back and listen. But you always ask me what's going on in Pittsburgh Sports Talk Radio, and they wanted Mike Tomlin's head. They wanted Todd Haley's head after an 0-4 start. Get rid of Tomlin. Get rid of Haley. Get rid of Dick LeBeau, the system's not working, and they almost snuck in the playoffs. And what irks me now is now the fans are upset because they didn't make the playoffs, and they're saying, well, a bad call in the game, and Tomlin did his great coaching job to get the team back when 12 weeks ago you wanted to fire the guy. So my rant here is
ridiculous. I like Tomlin a lot.
I do too, and so I listen to these fans call in, and maybe LeBeau is pushing the end, but his defense has deteriorated a little bit with the talent. So again, give him the talent. He's got to work with the talent that he has. Yeah, the defense is getting old and they've lost a step. So look at it from the standpoint of what personnel are you going to give a coach to work with. And so, this thing about how they just flip like that. When you lose, you want to fire the coach. You want to fire the coach. And look.
Or the coordinator.
Or the coordinator. And, the big thing was Todd Haley. Let's get rid of Todd Haley. Him and Big Ben don't work well together. Well, if I look back at the stats and I don't have them in front of me, that offense was clicking at the end of the year. I mean, they went into Green Bay and they racked up some yards and put points on the board and defeated us. That offense was playing well.
The big reason why that is?
Why is that?
Is part of the issue with Haley and Roethlisberger is one of the reasons why they were butting heads is Haley wasn't giving Roethlisberger much control of the offense. It was all going through Haley. But Haley, learning from past experiences when he was head coach down in Kansas City, I believe, Kansas City. He learned from that experience that he has to listen to his players and listen to what they want. And he gave Roethlisberger a little bit more power and a little more say in that offense. So that's what saved Haley in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and you let Big Ben start to run the no-huddle offense. And so you're absolutely right. Haley
to give him more power.
Yeah, Haley adjusted to Ben, and sometimes that's all it takes. So if we listen to the fans, he would have been fired after the fourth week, and then where would that offense have been? So sometimes I think
would have been fired after last season if we listened to the fans.
And again, it just goes back. I'll use the darn word ridiculous. As fans, I know we want to win. We get upset, but I think a lot of times, we're placing this blame on coaches when we should be sticking with them to see if they can turn things around. Sometimes there's just bad fits. As a prior coach, I've made bad hires. But like you said with Ray Rhodes, Ron Wolf knew he made a bad hire, fixed the situation. I mean, that's what it takes. If you made a bad hire, then get rid of it and fix the situation. In Chud's case, I don't think they made a bad hire. I think they just had a knee-jerk reaction because they want to try to win. But now you're bringing a new coaching staff in. You still don't have all the pieces in place. You still don't have a quarterback. You don't have a running back. So what are you going to do?
You only have one wide receiver.
Yeah, and so next year if they go 4-12 again, you're going to fire that coach?
90 seconds.
I don't know why they'd want to, if I was a coach, I don't know why I'd want to go there knowing that in 2 years, I have 2 years to turn this around, or otherwise I'm getting fired.
That's why my prediction is North Turner ends up getting the job, or Jim Tressel does by default. Now his name has popped up because no one's going to want it. But we're at about a minute left to go, and just want to let our listeners know, you can, as you said to begin with, you can find past episodes of the Ramble.
60 seconds.
And search Red Light Sports Ramble. It'll pop up. You'll find it. You can find us on Facebook, Red Light Ramble. You can find me on Facebook. You can find us both on Twitter. I'm eDubs 1250 intern, and you are
at Red Light Ramble.
At Red Light Ramble.
Yep.
So communicate with us, talk to us, and you're welcome to call in and let us know what's really bugging you. So thank you for those that are listening. And next Saturday we're going to have a pretty exciting topic as well. So give us a listen, and we'll announce the topic as the week goes on. So you need to listen to this week's Red Light Ramble.
Yep, and last thing I want to add in there is there's still time to get into our NFL Fantasy Playoff Challenge on NFL.com. We have a group, Red Light Sports Ramble. We got 23 people in right now. Come compete with Evan and I. And with that said, we'll see you all at the next red light.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.